All right. 428. This game is bonkers. That's all I'm going to say. All right, so we're just going to start over. And we're going to have this first time player's guide. Yes. Because that's what a Let's Player's job is. I'm bringing the game to y'all. All right. Story's a work of fiction, okay? Don't be thinking this really happened. Despite the aubergine man being in here. It's not actually him. He's acting. What a jam.
新宿区オフィスビル立てこもり事件の速報です。今朝新宿6丁目のオフィスビルに目出し帽をかぶった40歳前後とみられる男が従業員数人を人質に取り立てこもりました。その後数時間経った今も男は会社員の話によりますと、立てこもっている男は北島という男である可能性が高いとのことです。その男は以前からこのビル内のある企業との仕事上の取引があり、金銭上のトラブルが絶えなかったということです。今回の立てこもりはそのトラブルに端を発したものではないかと見方が強まっています。
David Cracker. I won't stand for it. I wish they would translate the prequel to this, the game that came before it, Machi. That game seems really cool, too. I think the world's ready for it. And also that horror one. Alright, as you play through the game, the various mechanics will be explained. In 428, you follow the stories of multiple protagonists at once. Your decisions impact their experiences as you read the story. What does the day hold in store? Their fate is in your hands. Hopefully, you can see them all through to the end. start, you have two characters, Shinya Kano and Achiendo. Let's begin by checking out Kano's story. Just checking the levels one last time before we get started here, because you know, once you're going, you're gone. I think we can stand to turn this up just a little bit. All right. Let's rock. Just 2 more minutes to go. Shinya Kano noted the time again on his watch, scowling at the slow creep of the second hand. The time was 9:58 a.m. Furrows of consternation creased his forehead. He wasn't nervous, but he knew better than to expect everything to go smoothly. Keeping a level head was proving rather difficult. There was no room for failure. Lives were on the line here. He eyed his surroundings. Was the perp really going to show up? When? Where would he be coming from? How would he make his approach? The Shibuya Scramble was as packed as ever. A throng of people crossing this way and that, blissfully unaware. The dozens of detectives hidden in its midst. All right, another minute and a half. Kano glanced down at his watch yet again. A mere 30 seconds had passed. Detective Kano had been with the enforcement arm of Shibuya's criminal affairs section for a year now, but he'd never been part of an operation this big before. He eyed the young woman standing beside the statue up ahead. She was small enough to get lost in the crowd, and she carried a nondescript attaché case. Hitomi Osawa, age 19. The attaché case in her hands contained a full 50 million yen in cash. Yesterday, her twin sister Maria had been kidnapped. This was the ransom payment. The culprit had called Hitomi last night at home, referring to her by name and telling her to wait by the statue of Hachiko in Shibuya. It was almost time, but nothing. Kano was staring fixedly at the second hand on his watch when a homeless man sitting on the sidewalk murmured just loud enough for him to hear. Come on, Kano, quit looking at your watch so much. What if the kidnapper sees you? Kano tried to look nonchalant as he lifted his eyes, but the scruffy character continued. You're too nervous. Just relax already. You're the one acting suspicious, Sasayama. Kano frowned. Why would some homeless guy be talking to me? Yuji Sasayama was the senior officer of the Shibuya Precinct's Criminal Affairs Division, 5 years older than Kano. Alright, and then we've got some guide text here. Some words and phrases in the text appear in blue. These are called tips. Press square to underline a tip, and then press X. This will let you read some extra info relating to that word or phrase. There are tips containing general knowledge and ones that are 428 specific. These are marked with a magnifying glass and a 428 respectively. So, Shibuya Precinct. Official name, Shibuya Central Precinct. Responsible for the safety of approximately 200,000 people in 32 neighborhoods, including Uehara, Uguisu Danicho, Uragawacho, Ibisu, Ibisunishi, Ibisuminami, Oyamacho, Kamiyamacho, I'm gonna try to read all of these. I'm gonna make myself do this. If it's really bad, then you can laugh at how bad it is. Sakuragaoka-cho? Sasazuka? Sarugaku-cho? Shibuya? Shoto? Jingumai? Shinsencho? Jinan? Sendagaya? Daikanyama-cho? Dogenzoka? Tomigaya? Nenpai-daicho? Nishihara? Hadagaya? Hachiyamacho? Hatsudai Higashi? Hiro? Honmachi? Maruyamacho? Moto Yoyogicho? Yoyogi? And Yoyogi Kamizono-cho. He always went a little overboard with the disguises. He claimed it was all part of the job, but word around the station was that he just liked playing dress-up. Hey, pal, spare some change? Sasayama lurched to his feet and shuffled in close to Kano. Hey, knock that off! Fittingly for the part, Sasayama reeked pretty badly. Well, ain't so suspicious now, huh? He clung to Kano with mock camaraderie, despite the younger man's attempts to pull away. Come on, Sasayama, cut it out! Sasayama's blithe confidence rattled Kano's nerves. Of course, there was good reason for that confidence. This was Kano and Sasayama's jurisdiction, but they were positioned a good distance from where the handoff was to take place. Jurisdiction. A particular region over which an organization or a member thereof has control or authority, refers here to the areas under the jurisdiction of various police precincts. The Metropolitan Police Department, at the pinnacle of Tokyo's police hierarchy, has vastly more authority than local precincts, but since many officers wind up needing to work with both, the outright rivalry between the two isn't as notable as TV dramas may make it seem. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get some water because my lips, let's just say I feel like SpongeBob in the SpongeBob movie when he's under the lamp. The statue of Hachiko was surrounded by elite investigators from one of HQ's special investigation teams. And we've got some guide text here. Sometimes 2 or more tips will appear on a single screen. Press square repeatedly to change which words are underlined. Highlight the tip you wish to read, then press X. Continue pressing square, or press circle to return to reading the story. So let's read about the statue of Hachiko. Bronze statue of a dog erected in 1934. The dog was famous for loyally waiting for his absent master, well known as a meetup spot outside of Shibuya Station. Other popular meetup spots at the station are the display car for the original Tokyo 5000 series, commonly known as the Green Frog, and the Moyai statue by the west entrance. So here we see the statue of Hachiko, the Moyai statue, and the Green Frog. And then we have HQ. Here refers to the Metropolitan Police Department, the Tokyo Police Section responsible for managing 101 precincts within the city. Japan's largest police organization, in addition to policing Tokyo, it has various other duties and authorities for maintaining public order in the capital. Kano and his partner were just there to provide backup if the kidnapper attempted to flee. Look, just try to relax. We'll be fine. Sasayama gave him a wink. A moment later, the radio squawked in Kano's ear. All right, everyone, it's time. Keep your eyes open. The voice coming in through the earpiece was Koji Kuze, HQ's operations director. Operations director, the individual responsible for directing the investigation in the event of a serious crime. If a task force is set up, the operations director is the one who assumes command. TV dramas and other fictional accounts often feature some young prodigy from the MPD as operations director, but in reality, the position usually goes to a proven veteran. Until last year, he'd been the Shibuya precinct's head detective, and Kano's supervisor. We don't know when the perp is going to make contact. Don't let your guard down. Kuze's low, growly voice echoed in Kano's ear. You don't sound too worried, Kuze. Kano winced at Sasayama's words. How could the man be so nonchalant? The appointed time had come and gone. Something should be happening. Whap! Kano smacked himself in the thigh to release a little tension. The sound was louder than he'd intended. Though the suit hid his muscular physique, it did little to dampen the noise. He needed to stay focused. He might be called to action at any moment. The department handled abduction cases according to a certain standard investigation procedure. Was it an attempt to extort money, or was the motive something personal? The answer to that question determined how they deal with the criminal. And based on the investigation team's initial findings this time around, they probably weren't dealing with a professional kidnapper. Still, in all likelihood, it was someone with quite a long rap sheet. Probably someone who knew the family, but so far they had few leads on who might bear such a grudge. With the situation so unclear, the plan was to apprehend whomever came to make the handoff on site. If the culprit ran with the money, there'd be no guarantee of the hostage's well-being. Still nothing, Sasayama muttered. There he is. He's here. Kuze broke in, his voice spiking into an excited chirp. Kuze's particular vocal quirk. Whenever he gets overly flustered, excited, or panicked, he slips into a childish register, prone to babbling and pitching his voice. Subject is a young male in his 20s, wearing a bandana and an orange hoodie. Kuze, normally calm and stoic, was now squawking like an excited child. That only happened when he got particularly worked up. Kano and Sasayama steeled themselves. They could see the subject now. A 20-something male nonchalantly approached Hitomi to talk to her. Alright, people. Be ready to grab this guy. Kuze was stationed in the mobile command center not far from the intersection, keeping tabs on the situation via video surveillance from the camera team. The young man started speaking enthusiastically to Hitomi. The detectives watched, uncertain. Was this really the kidnapper? We've got some guide text here. You'll encounter selections like these during the story. These choices will change the lives of other people, in addition to changing your own fate. Use up and down to make your choice, then press X. The current choice will not impact you or any of the other protagonists. That's gotta be him. Kano took a step forward, then hesitated. Yes, that was him all right. Kano took a step forward. Hold it! Sasayama yanked him back. Don't be so hasty. But just watch for a minute. Sasayama gestured with a nod. With Hitomi steadfastly ignoring him, the young man slunk away. Guess it wasn't him. Kano felt the tension of the moment linger in his spine. Guy must have been hitting on her, Sasayama muttered. I mean, she is pretty cute and all. He had a point. Hitting on her. Succeeding at meeting someone on the fly like this takes a special knack. Looks are also important. Sometimes, of course, the person trying to get your attention out of nowhere is just trying to make a sales pitch for a product or a nearby establishment. At first glance, it isn't always easy to tell the difference. Though, of course, something in Sasayama's voice made Kano brace himself. She's got nothing on my Mi-chan. Mi-chan was Sasayama's wife. They'd gotten married just last month. Let me tell you, Kano, married life is the best. You gotta hurry up and give it a try for yourself. Give me one sec. Okay. This was Sasayama's favorite topic lately, and Kano is getting more and more fed up with it. Do something. Sasayama, come on. Just knock it off, okay? The phrase had become a common refrain of his since the department partnered them. Fine, fine. Let's talk about your girlfriend then. Huh? Now? You can't be serious. Sasayama leaned in close again. What's she like? We are not having this conversation, Kano muttered, looking away. Aw, come on. Sasayama set his hand on Kano's chest, still playing the homeless troublemaker. Show me your phone. Let me see your lock screen. Huh? Sasayama pawed for the phone. You got a pic of your girl on your lock screen, yeah? I do not. But he did. It was scary how on the mark Sasayama's instincts were. Hey, cut it out! We're in the middle of an investigation. I am investigating, Sasayama chuckled as he plucked the phone from Kano's pocket. His face scrunched up with astonishment as he looked at the lock screen. What the heck is this? It's not... Ain't this Masami Nagahama? A national star. Tends to play the heroine on national morning soap operas or in national historical dramas. Her songs have been a series of national hits, and she's even slated to host the year-end national singing competition program. Everything about her is national. Kano realized he had to bite the bullet. No, it's my girlfriend. Her name's Rumi, and she's... Sasayama cut him off. You're telling me this ain't Masami Nagahama, the famous actress? Because this right here is Masami Nagahama. Like I said, you sly old dog, trying to make like you're dating Masami Nagahama. I'm not. I mean, I guess Rumi does kind of look like her. Sasayama let out a huff. For real? You really think I'm gonna fall for that? There's nothing to fall for, I swear. Guide. I brought this up, I think, on accident. Press up on the D-pad to go back and reread sections you've already played through. To scroll ahead through text you've already read, press down. When rewinding or advancing like this, page turning icon will sometimes appear in the upper left corner. Press X while this is being displayed to reread the current page. There's nothing to fall for, I swear. Sasayama scowled, unconvinced. Alright, then why don't you marry her? Kano stammered, but had no answer. The truth was, he would have happily married her already, but there were obstacles that needed to be overcome. Okay, playtime's over. Let's focus on the job. Sasayama handed back Kano's phone and turned his gaze back to Hitomi. Kano let out a quick, uneasy sigh. But his shoulders did feel looser. Maybe Sasayama had been trying to relieve a bit of the tension. Maybe he should be grateful. I didn't take the lid off. That's crazy. That's pretty embarrassing. By now, several minutes had passed since the guy with the papers had gone away. He peered at Hitomi. The strain on her face was visible. In addition to the weight of the attaché case itself, the 5,000, 10,000 yen bills it held weighed close to 6 kilos. Her slender arms must have been getting tired. Still, she refused to set the case down. She wasn't taking any chances with her sister's life. The kidnapping case had begun the day before, at around 7 p.m. This is MPD Dispatch. The Shibuya precinct is reporting a missing person, believed to be an abduction. In Japanese law, the act of indirectly luring or deceiving someone into the control of a third party is known as kidnapping. Using forcible threats or violence to achieve the same result is known as abduction. Subject is Maria Osawa, a 19-year-old student at Midoriyama Academy, last seen at the LL Diner near campus. A man was allegedly seen forcing her into a car nearby. All officers in the vicinity report to the scene at once. Kano and Sasayama had been working a burglary case in Jingumai's 5th district when they got the call. The two arrived at the LL Diner at 7:15 p.m. At roughly the same time, several other officers showed up to secure the area, blocking off entry to nearby roadways and monitoring the surrounding establishments. Inside the restaurant, Kano and Sasayama were met by the girl who'd reported the kidnapping. It was the victim's twin sister, Hitomi. "Could you tell us about when Maria was taken, starting from the very beginning?" Kano said, keeping his voice low. My sister and I were supposed to go to a party together today." Hitomi was trembling, her voice hoarse. "But I messed up the time. I showed up right at 7, an hour later than I was supposed to." So, Maria had gone alone to the party, a mixer for locals and exchange students. Hitomi, arriving late, had showed up just in time to glance out through the restaurant window and see her sister getting shoved into a car. She described the vehicle as a blue station wagon of Japanese make. Why would something like this happen to her? Hitomi held back her tears, but she was shaking all over. "Did you get a look at the kidnapper?" "Yes, it was a man, middle-aged." There was another witness. Leland Palmer. We have Leland Palmer coming to the stand, y'all, as an eyewitness. Ray Wise is here. That is not Ray Wise, though. He identified himself as a lecturer at Hitomi and Maria's school. "I saw it too. It's like Hitomi says. I heard Hitomi cry out, and so I went to the window to look. And his Japanese was halting, as if he hadn't been in the country very long. I think that maybe the kidnapper was working alone." Leland explained that he'd seen the man shove Maria into the back seat and then clamber into the driver's seat. If he had an accomplice, wouldn't they have been driving? Neither Hitomi nor Leland had gotten a look at the suspect's face. Kano was interviewing others who had been on the scene, looking for other potential witnesses, when his phone rang. It was Yoshio Kajiwara, one of the senior detectives. "We've set up a task force for the investigation. Get back to the station once you have a handle on the situation there." Barely half an hour had passed between the time the kidnapping was reported and the time the task force began operation. Task force. Roughly 150 people are working on the case in the Shibuya Precinct's conference room. The main force at work is HQ's 1st Special Investigation Unit. Additionally, other detective sections, a riot squad, and investigators from neighboring precincts have been assembled. When Kano and Sasayama got back to the precinct station, Kuze had already arrived from HQ. He informed them that a response team had been formed to investigate the victim's home. Response team. In a case where someone has been abducted for ransom, it is often difficult to resolve the situation without cooperating with the victim's family, but the family can also be a hindrance in making an arrest. To help guide the family's actions, a response team is assembled and stationed at the victim's home, led by an investigator with the proper training. Kano could feel a particular tension in the air. Unfamiliar MPD detectives scurried to and fro around the Shibuya offices. He pulled one of them aside to get a quick update. An hour had now passed since the kidnapping. There had been one new development. The perpetrator had made a threatening call to the victim's home. He said the following: "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Wait, I gotta sound like a... Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'm going to call in Shibuya. The sister had told me bring 50 million yen. No. Girl's life is forfeit." Kajiwara from the precinct was put on the response team, along with detectives from elsewhere who'd received special training in abduction cases. Normally, a local precinct detective wouldn't have gone undercover in a victim's home. Kuze, however, had decided that having a knowledgeable local was crucial and had sent Kajiwara along. The detectives disguised themselves as delivery people and movers to make their way inside without arousing suspicion, arriving there at 8:30. The response team had come prepared to run a trace if the kidnapper contacted the family a second time. Trace, the act of pinpointing the source of an incoming phone call. The police are not allowed to do this independently without oversight. They must go through a formalized process that includes securing the cooperation of the phone company. In the past, conducting the trace itself would take time, but nowadays, acquiring the location can be practically instantaneous. But there were no further calls. Kano checked his watch again. 20 minutes had now passed since the time designated for the ransom handoff. The kidnapper had yet to appear. "You think we might have spooked him?" he wondered aloud. "Hey, stay calm." Sasayama scanned the passing throng. "He's just playing with us." Why'd this guy even pick this place? Kano voiced the question he'd been asking himself ever since he'd heard of the kidnapper's demands. Sasayama shrugged. "Figure he must want to blend in with the crowd, nab the money, and disappear before anyone knows he's there, would be my guess." In that case, why not pick Shinjuku or Ginza? The big crowd just didn't benefit the kidnapper after all. It also allowed the police to use the sea of people to conceal their own operation. Right now, there were 50 detectives stationed within a 50-meter radius of where Hitomi stood. The kidnapper would be taking a major risk if his plan was to nab the ransom money and run. That's what bothered Kano. Any criminal with half a brain would know better than to do a handoff in front of Hachiko. "You're overthinking things, pal," Sasayama grumbled. "Oh, I'm not." Kano reached into his pocket and pulled out his notepad. This was Kano's Dick Diary, which he always kept close at hand. Sasayama rolled his eyes. "That thing again?" Kano ignored him, flipping through the notebook pages. "Ha! Here it is!" Dick Dictum number 89. The more irrelevant something seems, the more relevant it's bound to be. It was a favorite saying of Kyuzo Tatano, an assistant inspector from the Shibuya precinct. Tatano was the kind of detective Kano aspired to be. For the current operation, he'd been placed in charge of Hitomi's personal safety. He was in position to defend her as soon as the ransom had been handed off. Of course, Hitomi hadn't been informed of how much protection she was under. There was a risk that if she acted too secure, it might alert the kidnapper. I think Tatano has the right idea. Sasayama snorted quietly. Maybe. I mean, he's a great detective. Don't get me wrong. But do you know how many irrelevant things there are to consider? Again, Kano ignored him. It didn't matter if no one else understood. Kano had faith in Tatano as both a detective and as an individual. He had first witnessed Tatano's brilliance during a standoff at a financial company 3 years earlier. A man had shut himself in an office, splashing gasoline everywhere and threatening to set the place ablaze. While the others hesitated, Tatano unflinchingly doused himself with gasoline and strode into the building, where he managed to talk the man down and secure the scene. The others had been awestruck by Tatano's actions, and Kano, who at the time had been content to be a run-of-the-mill policeman, had found it quite inspiring. Still, you know, Sasayama muttered under his breath, as great a detective as Tatano is, it's not like anyone else in the world has ever heard of him. Suppose not, Kano said. So? Only time anyone ever hears a cop's name is if he's caught up in some scandal or killed in the line of duty. I mean, doesn't really seem fair, does it? Kano just shrugged. It was a strange definition of unfair, really. I mean, you've got celebrity chefs and celebrity hairdressers and stuff, so how come no celebrity gumshoes, you know? Look, please, can you just focus on what we're doing here? Kano rubbed his eyes and then turned his attention back to Hitomi. What's the matter? Didn't sleep? Not enough, I guess. Did you eat? Didn't have time. Between bringing in supplies for the base of operations, readying the team's vehicles, photocopying hundreds of documents, and various other tasks, Kano had barely slept the previous night and hadn't gotten a meal in either. A base of operations is usually set up in a large room at the precinct, such as an auditorium, MPD, and precinct investigators. God, I want to read this again. A base of operations is usually set up in a large room at the precinct, such as an auditorium. MPD and precinct investigators assemble there, and communicators, equipment... What is happening? MPD and precinct investigators assemble there, and communications equipment, investigation resources, and such are brought in. Because of the scale and scope of these activities, newspaper reporters can be liable to notice, and so in such cases like kidnapping, where a victim's personal safety is at stake, the flow of information is tightly controlled. What have you been doing? Sasayama puffed out his chest. Saving up my energy for today. So you were sleeping. Kano gave a wry chuckle at his partner's lack of shame. There he is! Kuze's voice chirped suddenly through Kano's earpiece. A man in his 20s wearing a sleeveless red jacket. He's carrying a garbage bag. A young man had emerged from the crowd, about 15 feet from where Hitomi was standing. He strode toward her, a sinister look on his face. He didn't match Hitomi's description, but Kano felt a jolt of nerves all the same. Maybe the kidnapper had hired some young street punk to snatch the ransom payment. That our guy? What do you think, Kano? Sasayama whispered. Yeah, I think he's gotta be. This was it. Kano swallowed the lump in his throat. He bent his knees, ready to act fast. Blood rushed to his leg muscles, banishing the stiffness that had begun to take hold. Could this be the culprit? Or perhaps... The young man tried to snatch the briefcase from Hitomi, but she clung to it with desperate strength. It was him. The detectives rushed in. Whoa, hey, what the hell? The young man cried out frantically and tried to dart away, but the officers closed in, forcing him bodily to the ground. Target secured. Oh, geez, I think we got another suspect on the scene. He's taking the ransom. Kuze's hysterics made Kano spin around. Sure enough, a foreign-looking man was sprinting away, attaché case in hand. The mob of detectives scrambled to pursue. But before Kano could react, most of them had run off, leaving him to look after the original suspect. What should I do with this guy, sir? He might have some connection to the kidnap. Should I bring him in? Huh? Oh, sure, that'd be swell. I'm on it. With the help of one of the remaining detectives, Kano brought the suspect back to the Shibuya precinct. Look, how many times do we have to go through this? Cut the crap! In the interrogation room, the young man, who gave his name as Achi Endo, steadfastly insisted on his innocence. Why'd you try to steal that case? Kano watched Achi's face intently. Like I said, it looked heavy, so I was just trying to help her out. It wasn't inconceivable that a young guy would want to help a pretty girl, but Hitomi had just been standing there, hardly in desperate need of assistance. She hadn't set the case down, so I figured there had to be something important inside. An entry from Kano's Dick diary shot through his mind. Dick dictum number 25. When the tongue slips, grab it and yank out the truth. Classic advice for questioning. Something important, you say? Such as? How the heck would I know? Achi spat. He huffed and slumped back in his chair. This standard textbook back and forth had been going on for nearly an hour. Kano didn't mind. Chasing down criminals was all well and good, but questioning suspects was another key part of the job. Plenty of off-the-scene work went into cracking a case. Once again, he had Achi explain what he'd been doing, starting from the beginning. When Kano finally emerged from the interrogation room for a short break, he learned that there had been some progress on the case at the crime scene. What the police hadn't been able to determine yet, however, was whether or not Maria was safe. Fighting back his anxiety, Kano consulted his Dick diary. Dick dictum number 54. Haste makes waste. He felt his tension subside. Remembering the right maxim always helped. It was like casting a magic spell. Kano returned to confront Achi once more. You were there to act as a distraction, to mess up the investigation, weren't you? Huh? Achi looked a bit dumbfounded. What are you on about? Dick dictum number 55. The truth hungers to be free. You hungry? Got some katsudon if you like. Katsudon. Japanese dish consisting of a bowl of white rice topped with breaded pork cutlet and egg. There are several variations, such as sauce katsudon, where the egg is replaced with Worcestershire sauce, and miso katsudon, where the pork is stewed in miso. Not typically the sort of thing a policeman offers a suspect during an interrogation. This could be seen as baiting with food and is to be avoided. Achi nodded silently. Achi devoured the bowl of katsudon with gusto. He looked like he hadn't eaten in a while. Alright then, spill it. What's this guy after? Achi just shrugged. I don't know, he murmured, a thick slice of egg-laden pork between his teeth. How many accomplices do you have? Kano asked, but Achi just shook his head as he inhaled his food. Resignedly, Kano flipped through his notebook once more. Let's see. Number 115. Use the lights to your advantage. As the minutes ticked past, he found himself referring to his book again and again, trying a dozen different methods to tease out whatever his suspect might be hiding. The experience began to feel strangely surreal, their two voices echoing hollowly in the interrogation room. Eventually, Kano looked at the clock and realized that the questioning had been going on for nearly 5 hours. He still hadn't made any headway. What was he supposed to do next? Tatno would know, but he sure didn't. Still, he was determined to do whatever he could to keep the victim and her family safe. Gritting his teeth in frustration, he perused the Dick diary like it was scripture. Number 116. The monotonous questioning was clearly tiring Achi out. His eyelids drooped like they were beginning to get heavy. Number 117. Get 'em when they're tired. Kano's eyes gleamed. You're part of some criminal gang, huh? Achi's head slumped forward heavily. Nodding off was basically the same as nodding yes, right? Mr. Kuze, I did it! The young guy we grabbed at the handoff site, he finally confessed to the crime. What? What are you talking about? Kuze laughed in disbelief. We're just about to apprehend the mastermind here. Huh? Kano clutched his cell phone, dumbstruck. Listen, why don't you, look, just wait there at HQ, okay? No, it can't be. I... After the kidnapping case wrapped up, Kano tendered his resignation. Guess I'm not cut out to be a detective after all, he thought to himself. He dropped the Dick diary on his desk as he left the Shibuya precinct for the last time. Bad end. Number 1, So Long Shibuya. So I will be trying to 100% this game. Hopefully nothing in this is too obscure or crazy, but I think from what I remember it was pretty straightforward. The only thing is, I have already unlocked a bunch of achievements, and those are a good way to, know if you've done it right or not. So we're gonna have to be extra careful and actually count all of them. So that's why I was actually writing this down. Okay. So here's what the guide's got to say. Kano wound up at a bad end. However, this does not mean that the choice you made for Kano was the wrong one. One of the other protagonists, Achi Indo, has an impact on Kano's fate here. You can avoid a bad end by making proper decisions in another character's story. For a detailed hint, check the tip by underlining the bad end title. Press square, then X. So, let's see. Hint. Kano had every reason to suspect Achi Indo, but arresting him turned out to be a mistake. If Achi hadn't approached Hitomi, this wouldn't have happened. Try playing Achi's story up to 10:30 and make a choice that keeps him from going up to her. If you do that, Kano won't even have a chance to arrest him, and things should play out differently. So that's that. Okay, so let's see how this plays out. I don't know if it's just gonna throw us in there. Guide. You can now select Achi Indo, one of the other protagonists. Let's follow Achi's story for a little while. I'm gonna go ahead and hit back. Yeah, okay, so writing down here that we are at the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock time slot. Okay. So I'm gonna shoot for shorter episodes for this this series, and part of that is just so that I can save my voice. Part of that is I want to do these episodes more often. I think I'm not going to be ending the stream anytime soon, but I am going to be ending this episode. And so let's move on over to our epilogue. Thank you so much for tuning in. I assume you are watching the VOD if you're seeing this. Right over here, we've got all my social links. Blue Sky, Threads, and X are all basically just notification services. You can basically just hear when I upload a new video on YouTube. Sometimes I'll put when I'm going live there, or I'll be like, hey, I'm gonna choose between these games to help me choose. X is probably the one I use the most, but I've got your other alternatives as well. And if people start following me on them, I will use them. We've also got my Bandcamp. You can check out my music. PayPal, where you can always just send a couple bucks. That's always a great way to show support. And then, of course, there is the Twitch where I stream these live, and the YouTube where I put them afterwards. So thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you on the next episode of 428 Shibuya Scramble. Peace out.